Huh? I'm not Debo. This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the December 13th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Bench the app. Never take a zero, never get a goose egg on your fantasy team because you left a non-starting player in the lineup. Download Bench the app today. Make that a thing of the past and dominate your fantasy season. All right, so every game has a DNA, the date, the setting, the time, but it doesn't determine the outcome, right? Every day, every game has its own DNA, the things that are just making it that way. But it's what you get and it's how you deal with it that counts. Your quarterback is off. The weather is bad. The stakes are high. You're not at full strength. Maybe the locker room's in disarray. The DNA is the DNA, and you better find a way. And that might be the most beautiful thing about football, finding a way when everything is not good, right? And so when I kept hearing all day, that this Ram win yesterday was ugly.
That is incredibly jejune.
Say what?
That is incredibly jejune.
One more time?
That is incredibly jejune.
Yes. Everyone's talking about it was ugly. I did not think it was an ugly game. The Rams didn't have any turnovers. They had few penalties, couple critical ones. Stafford wasn't sacked. It was a divisional game, a rivalry game, bad weather, and the Rams gutted out the win. They dealt with the elements. They dealt with the DNA of the day, and they won this game. And let's remember, before everyone just says Brock Purdy's a horrible quarterback, which everyone's been salivating to do in the KBM, let's remember, Brock Purdy was merely Kyle Shanahan's big game incompetence from winning Super Bowl 58. Chiefs are up 13-10, start the fourth quarter, and Purdy throws a touchdown pass to Jawan Jennings. Chiefs go up 16-13. They tie the game at 16. 49ers go up 49ers go up 16-13. Chiefs tied at 16. 49ers go up 19-16. Chiefs tied at 19. 49ers go up 22-19 and then end up losing the Super Bowl. That's not Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy repeatedly showed the fan base and everybody that he can play in the Super Bowl. Is he Matt Stafford? Is he Josh Allen? No, of course not. But everyone was salivating for that, and they're not giving credit to the Rams defense that was absolutely fantastic last night. That Rams defense was off the charts last night. Now, no Trent Williams, no Christian McCaffrey. Hey, we get it. But hey, you know what? That's the way the mop flops. Nobody shed a tear for the Rams in 2022. Nobody was shedding a tear for the Rams when they were 1-4 this year. The defense was fantastic. The offensive line, despite what PFF says, was terrific. And Matthew Stafford was the most mortal of all the elements last night for the Rams, right? He was bad. And I'm, Mr. Pro Stafford, Stafford says this, I say amen generally on a football field. Stafford was bad early. He not only missed throws, he missed guys he didn't even look at. Now, again, conditions and everything like that. But, because our expectation is he's so good, you just never expect him to miss. And he missed. He was the weak link in that first half, right? But he was solid late, made the right throws when he had to, and he just wasn't in the first half, but in the second half, he was. in the rain, big game. I believe this also. We've discovered this. McVay has an operational confidence in Josh Carty in the kicking game. Okay? He just does. The defense delivered a pick, 3 sacks, 19 hurries. And did you see them on the edge? They held the edge and limited the running game for the 49ers. 57 yards, I think, by Garendo. Jawan Jennings, who killed the Rams in week 3, right? Because he was going against what? Kobe Durant, Trey White. You know who he had to play this time that weren't on the team at the time? Darius Williams, injured. Akilla Witherspoon in the street, weren't with the Rams in week 3. Jennings was targeted 9 times last night. He only had 2 catches. Witherspoon and Williams were fantastic. And of course, they were fantastic when they had to be. And there is a big difference between facing Purdy or Josh Allen, right? So, yeah, they were fantastic last night. Kobe Turner demonstrating again that he's not distinctly Aaron Donald dependent. He is a great player in his own right. No, he's not Aaron Donald, but he's a star. And then you surround him with Braden Fisk, Bobby Brown, Tyler Davis, and that front line's performing reasonably well. Byron Young had his best game by far of the season, maybe his career, the way he held the edge and did his job. Jared Verse was equally great holding the edge. And then here's something we got to ask the question on. Christian Roseboom had the best game of his career. He really did. Lost in all of this is Christian Roseboom played the best game of his career. And there's the great question, right? There's the great question. Roseboom is 27. He turns 28 at the end of January. So maybe when the Rams are in the bye week for the Super Bowl, he'll turn 28. Anyway, I joke. But matching him and Omar Speights has ceased to make this position a liability. Could it be better? Oh, of course. I think Speights is going to get better with experience. But we're seeing things out of Roseboom right now that I don't think we thought was possible. I really don't. And I don't know what it is, maybe because Speights has the ability and the capacity to do other things that frees Roseboom up. But you're seeing a guy who's playing with enormous confidence, Roseboom. You're seeing him make more plays. Each week, he keeps making plays. And so my question comes, you got to bring him back. He plays on a 1-year contract every year. I think you got to bring him back. I'm not saying you don't draft a linebacker, but I think you got to bring him back. He's played that well. He really has. Matching him in Speights has ceased to make that linebacker spot the absolute liability that it has been. And I think it looks pretty good right now. Kitchens and Curl at safety were who we needed them to be. They kept making plays. Curl was making great plays. And then, of course, we have absolute trust in Quentin Lake. Brock Purdy didn't play well, but I think a lot of it had to do with the Rams defense. And of course, it had to do with Deebo Samuel, right? It had a lot to do with Deebo Samuel because they did try to get him the ball. And Deebo Samuel tanked again. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, but the Sunday game on the 24th of November, they lost to the Packers. Remember that game? Ball went right through his hands. Deebo Samuel has never been an elite receiver. He's a great player, but he's not an elite receiver. And I don't know if he's a great player anymore. And he whines and he moans and he cries and they try to feed him the ball. He catches that in route. What do you want to call that? I don't know if it was exactly slant, that mini post, that little dig. He catches that because Purdy put it on stride. He catches that with his size and his momentum. If he's not going to the end zone, he's going to the one. And he, De Piedra, right? He stoned it, stone hands. He biffed it, and he cost the 49ers a lot in that game. And he wasn't running the ball. Rams were stopping him. Isaac Garendo, you can see why they like him. And maybe his foot's still bothering him, but he only had 57 yards and 16 carries. And this Ram, outside of the play to George Kittle, who they targeted 7 times, he had 4 catches. That play in the first quarter where he gained, that big play that led to their first field goal, they shut George Kittle down. I mean, they shut this whole 49ers offense down. And I don't like Kyle Shanahan in a big game. I wouldn't trust him at all in a big game. I think he biffs more things than anything in a big game. but his teams are generally pretty good, and we've suffered them as Ram fans. But Chris Shula shut them down. And that brings me to Chris Shula. I'm sitting in the RamCave last night watching it with Mid-Valley sports guy Dwayne Barker, and we're watching the game. And at the end, you're seeing 5 guys come after Purdy at the end of the game when they're going to throw the Hail Mary. And, you just don't see that anymore. And my mind went immediately to George Allen, who was critical of defenses that sent less than 4, usually only 3, on those final end of the game Hail Mary type of plays. And he used to say, you don't call off the dog on those things, the dog being the pass rush, the blitz. And he says, you don't call off the dog. In fact, I remember him specifically saying that one play before the Rams lost a game to the Falcons 13-10 on Bartkowski's bomb to Alfred Jackson. And George Allen was, I think, with Scully that day on CBS Sports. And he says, you got to rush these guys. You can't just rush 3. And that's where my mind went. And Shula sent 5. And he didn't send 5 linemen. He sent Roseboom, who runs well, and Cam Curl. And Brock Purdy never got the pass off. That was marvelous. That was just very innovative. You're looking at different schemes. You're looking at different sets. You see them move guys around. I think he's just done more with this defense. He's done a great job, and it's gotten better as these players have developed, right? We're not seeing the missed tackles anymore that we were seeing, or at least to the extent that we were seeing them at the start of the season. If Sunday was a day for the offense to shine, Monday was a day for the defense to shine. On the offensive side of the ball, we talked about Stafford. We know what that was. Saw Kyron Williams had a game. He averaged less than 4 yards a carry, but I'm going to give credit to McVay. There was early on in the game, even as the weather was coming, I was surprised. I thought he was going to abandon the run. I thought he was passing too much. And then, especially in the second half, towards the end of the first, after those, first 4 possessions, he just started pounding the ball, and that made all the difference. And when you look at the offensive line, you saw the offensive line last night. What did you think of the Rams' offensive line? I thought the offensive line looked pretty good. Of course, the PFF is not doing itself any favors. I looked at PFF grades, and note to anybody out there, if there's an alternative to PFF, let me know, because I'm ready to open myself up to better options, because I think they're hiring junior high walk-ons to grade these games, because I don't know what they're seeing. Stafford wasn't sacked. He took 5 hits, 15 hurries, but when he needed to get a pass off, he got a pass off. Kyron Williams ran for over 100 yards, and he was running for over 100 yards, even as Stafford was missing receivers, and the Rams' passing game wasn't going anywhere, and they were able to load the box, and the Rams were still pushing the ball. And Alaric Jackson was graded good in pass protection, poorly in run. They gave Steve Avila a 21.6. They gave him Logan Bruss numbers. They gave Bo Limmer Logan Bruss numbers in the pass protection game, and yet Stafford didn't get sacked. Kevin Dotson, of course, graded out well running, but they gave him a less than 50 in pass protection. In fact, grading out less than 50, Avila, Limmer, Dotson, and Havenstein in pass protection graded out less than 50. Help me with that. And overall, if you look at the grades of the 49ers offensive line that gave up 3 sacks and 19 hurries, they graded the 49ers offensive line as better than the Rams offensive line last night. Help me figure that one out. Now, I know that has nothing to do with the game, but as far as you go to places to trust and not letting somebody tell you because they got some standing, some validation somewhere telling you what your eyes saw. We saw not a perfect offensive line, but we saw a pretty good offensive line last night. And I thought it was also interesting when you were looking at Bosa. That game, Bosa played 2 games against the Rams this year. He didn't get a sack this year. He lined up over Alaric Jackson in week 3, right? Didn't do anything. Quite a bit last night. He was lined up over Rob Havenstein. And he didn't get anything off Rob Havenstein. And so they were limited. And the Rams got out of the Leonard Floyd business at just the right time. So this was good. This was really good. Inside the 5, I don't know if I want to run an RPO with Matthew Stafford. I thought Stafford, if he had turned up on that, probably would have got a little bit closer and stuff. But, what can you say? You want to just see McVay pound the ball. I think if they just keep pounding the ball, I think it was Dano or a couple of our other guys online, Neil Gonzalez, somebody online was telling us, hey, put Jonah Jackson in the backfield. Hey, let's see if we can get some clicks out of Jonah Jackson, make him a fullback, and just pound. Just pound. Have you noticed the last 2-3 weeks, the Rams are running the quarterback sneak with Matthew Stafford a lot more? I think it is a sign they believe he is healthy because they're running that, and it's great. I think it's really good. But yeah, you'd like to see a little more straight ahead sometimes from McVay, but we're not going to argue with the win. These teams knew each other. Stafford wasn't his sharpest, and they still pulled off the win. Now, the good news here is also on top of that is the Rams have 10 days off to rest and focus on the Jets. That game should not be a trap game. When you got 10 days to rest and get your mind right, that's not a trap game, okay? When the Rams opened the season in Detroit and then they were playing Fog City or the 49ers in week 3, that game in week 2 against Arizona in Arizona was a trap game. Even if they had been healthy, that was a trap game because no one expected Arizona to be what they have been this year. And you're looking at your number one opponent in week 3, and you're looking at a Super Bowl contender in week 1. That is how you define a trap game. Rams have 10 days off to get ready to travel to New York and be ready to build on where they're at right now. That if the Rams lose that game, it's on them. I don't want to hear trap game. They just blew it. So there we go. All right. We actually got a couple listeners. I didn't even advertise. Greg Scott, no more horse collar tackle. Greg, thank you for clicking on, Greg. I don't think you've been here before, but please hit like and subscribe. No more horse collar tackles, please. I thought that was just weak sauce, man. I thought that was a terrible call on Charles Woods. He was already going out of bounds. I didn't think it was that much of a, it's not like he dragged him down. They would have been just as well. They didn't have to throw the flag on that. Speaking of flags, I'm still wondering why they didn't call Alaric Jackson's hold on the first series for the Rams, why they didn't call that a dead ball foul, because that play was over and then that flag flew in. Plenty of room to get on those guys. Micah Gutierrez, thank you for clicking on. A win is a win. Always good when we sweep the whiners. Absolutely, right? And I didn't think it was ugly. I'd be curious to know, did you guys actually think that was an ugly win, right? There's no turnovers. Stafford isn't sacked. There wasn't a ton of penalties. There was none of that 3rd and 4, we jump and give them a first down, right? There was none of that. There was no muffs on special teams. The worst you could say is Charles Woods getting a little close there on that horse collar. I thought it was a bit henhouse to call that. But I didn't think it was an ugly game. It was the DNA of the game. Bad weather, road opponent, rivalry game, a lot of familiarity, and that's just how it played out. And do you have the gifts? Do you have the talent? Do you have the focus to say, hey, this is what we've been dealt. This is the kind of day it's going to be. What are we going to do about it? And that was the beautiful thing. Again, that's football, right? Football is just awesome like that, is that it's a game where you're never going to be perfect because someone is stopping you and trying to knock your head off to keep you from being perfect. And but you got to survive and get the win. And that's why it was such a great, that was one of the more pleasurable wins to see the Rams get, and to get it that way. I didn't like it at the time. I thought I'm sitting here in the RamCave and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, we could be up 17-6 right now and wouldn't have to be dealing with this stuff, but it is what it is. Okay, let's take a look around the NFL and other places, mostly Frisco right now. And, sports-wise, this is the equivalent of the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco, right? Trent Williams held out for a new contract in his late 30s, and he got it. And now he's missed the back half of the season. He hasn't played since November 17th in that loss to Seattle. He's making 21 rocks the next 2 years. And then in 2027, he's scheduled to make 39 rocks. Christian McCaffrey, that was an easy call for all of us at the start of the year that you could not expect a third healthy season out of McCaffrey. And then you add in Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, and a banged-up Isaac Guerrero. McCaffrey's making 9 this year, next year. And in 26, he's making 25 rocks, and he's banged up. Deebo Samuel dropped a sure touchdown pass. He's not elite. Brandon Ayuk holds out for a big contract, has a bust of a season, and the 49ers graciously, I'm so glad they signed him. Samuel's making 15 rocks next year. That's his last year. Ayuk is making 11 and then 16 and 26. And then he jumps up to 42 and to 44. And some of that stuff is significantly guaranteed. I love this. Nick Bosa, who performs when he's on the field, kind of like McCaffrey and Williams, Bosa didn't record a sack, right? And he's making 20 next year, and then he jumps up to 42, 52, and 42. This guy's making serious bread. Maybe not 52. I think I miswrote that. So you got all this stuff. You got George Kittle, who's still playing really great ball. He turns 32. And then you had the whole incident with Devondre Campbell, right? I mean, we don't need to go into that. Absolutely insane what's taking place there in Frisco. And I think it's marvelous, right? But here's the funny thing. Are they bought in? Trent Williams had to know, right? Trent Williams is an all-pro. Trent Williams is, and I'm not harboring about guys getting their money, but Trent Williams, he's getting long in the tooth. He doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. He knows they're going to need to probably invest in Purdy or another quarterback, right? He knows McCaffrey's getting older. He knows these things. Why would you hold your company hostage when you were already signed to get more if the winning and the Super Bowl is important to you, right? You know, and again, I go back to John Lynch. What are you signing Brandon Ayuk for? What are you signing him for? Trade him. Get rid of him. Go with Juwan Jennings. Draft another receiver. You drafted Ricky Pearsall. They only targeted him 4 times last night. And just rebuild. But don't give Brandon Ayuk that kind of dough. He's not even A.J. Brown. He whines like A.J. Brown. And so that's it. You've got Trent Williams, Samuel, Ayuk. These are not guys that you go to war with consistently, and I think the Bills come due. They signed Devondre Campbell. There was a reason Devondre Campbell's a competent linebacker, but the Packers said, no, it's okay, dude, you can take off. There's a reason you move off of guys, and I think you talk about a bill coming due. Maybe it's not with the salary cap, but it comes with the character of the players you bring in, right? And speaking of that, here's an interesting one. The Dolphins recently cut OBJ. They just cut him yesterday, I think, or was it this morning? And, a few of those questions come up and they said, would the Rams be interested in maybe signing OBJ? I would be if they signed him to the practice squad. And if he's willing to be patient, and to see if an opportunity develops, I'd bring him in. I would. All the stuff with him in Cleveland, yeah, he's a bad citizen. You don't know if you want to deal with that, but obviously there was something more there because he came to LA. He was a good soldier. He was a real good soldier. And, if the Rams want to sign him to the practice squad, hitch him along just for the ride, just in case there's some catastrophic something that takes place, yeah, I'd lean into him. I would lean into him because they've had him in the house before. And if he had other issues in New York and Cleveland, he didn't have those issues with the Rams. He understands the culture of the Rams. And that's something to think about. Number 3 here before we go to break. Heads up for the Rams. The Denver Broncos just extended their left tackle, Garrett Bowles. He was a first-round pick back in 2018, 2017. They extended him 4 years, 82 rocks, 42 guaranteed. I just mentioned that in light of the fact that Alaric Jackson is really playing well, and he's a free agent at the end of the season. And what is it going to cost to pay a guy who has not been paid yet, right? He has not been paid. This is a guy that was an undrafted free agent that is playing at a very high level and knows the system, knows where he's at. Do you roll the dice on bringing somebody else in? We've whiffed on free agents, right? And you just never know when you draft a tackle. Alex Barron, Jason Smith, Greg Montgomery, right? You just never know. But that's the market right there for a Garrett Bowles, 4 years, 82 rocks. What is that? A little more, was that 20.5 a year, 42 of it guaranteed. Just something to think about. All right, I'm Joe Terosian, a sports writer for 21 years, and now I do RamView thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law and the books I write. Kistler Law supports us as one of our main sponsors, but I also write books. My books are on Amazon, and you can find them there. Just type in Joe Terosian. My number 1 book that I sold for football was Tangent Dreams, the high school football novel. I like it better than Friday Night Lights, but then again, I'm the author. And I got 3 football books out there. I got another high school book. And I also got Game Day in the RamCave, which I released in September. And that's a fictional NFC championship game between the Rams and the Packers. And it's done pretty well. And it's done pretty well in terms of sales. So if you guys could check those things out, they support us. They keep us from having to go Patreon or keep us from having to have a paywall or anything like that. And it supports me in my day job is I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene. And you can find us right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual. And of course, BurbankFaithVirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual, all across social media. So thank you for your support. Please hit like and subscribe. And remember that we are also have a very small footprint on Spotify. I don't know what I'm doing wrong on Spotify. We've had nice growth here, but on Spotify, we have not had growth. And if you want to check us out, it's called From the RamCave on Spotify. It's the audio version of this show. Please download, check it out, follow, and help us to increase our imprint all across the social media. All right, some questions came in. Micah, it was nice to see Cardi get his confidence back too. Yes, it was. It was really good. A lot of confidence, especially in that weather, right? In that weather in the first half. I mean, that was good. And you notice again, same thing with him all year. I love that word. I never heard that until this year. So I'm not claiming that I've heard it before. McVay was talking about special teams and operational performance, operational control. One of the things about Cardi is not too often do his kicks go in and give you a heart attack on the way. If you remember Zerline, when Zerline was in his prime kicking for the Rams, he had that knuckleball or that screwball kick, right? It would go out and then come back in and stuff, and you're like jumping. Cardi's things were right down the pipes last night, especially in that weather. That was a great thing to see. Let's see. ESG, there were 2 helmet-to-helmet hits on Stafford that were not called. I think I know which ones you're talking about. Was that one of them at the goal line? But yeah, trying to remember how often Stafford gets the call, right? I don't remember too often. Micah Gutierrez, I agree with you. That next game shouldn't be a trap game, especially since we played at MetLife last December. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. Thank you, Micah. I do appreciate that. In fact, I remember that game, man. That game was a lot closer than it should have been, right? 49ers, great 49er coach and GM when players quit on you that way. USA expat. Hey, again, there is something about whatever the Rams do in their personality interviews and stuff. Again, Colin Cowherd uses the term noisy. I think other people use that expression as well. So I guess we can co-opt it. The Rams are not a noisy team, right? I mean, we had Demarcus Robinson with his DUI or alleged DUI a few weeks ago. Last year, we had Darian Kendrick's issue driving after midnight with a gun in his car. But no issues of domestic violence, no issues of really, anything. Aaron Donald had his holdout. I think it was prior to 2018, but again, that's Aaron Donald. He's one of the greatest players of all time, and he was early in his career. He was young in his career. We've seen Cooper Kupp. We've seen Stafford. Stafford's been underpaid since he's been with the Rams, given what the rest of the league is making. We've seen Cooper Kupp. We've seen Havenstein. We've seen other guys constantly get their salaries adjusted to make it work. And it's about the rings. It's about the W's. And I struggle with that when I look at the 49ers. When I look at, is Ayuk serious about winning? Now I'm not arguing the guy shouldn't get paid, but everyone understands if the teams could pay these guys, they would pay them. But there is the salary cap. Trent Williams, at the end of his career, he's done everything. He's Hall of Fame bound. He's got generational wealth already. Don't you want that ring? Don't you want to do that America's game at the end where, it ends with a black and white still of you raising your finger up saying Trent Williams retired and is now a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Don't you want that, right? I don't get it. And 49ers got issues there. I think the Rams do a much better job. And I think that's why the Rams got a ring. USA Expat, never stop enjoying the demise of the 49ers. Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. 2 things. One, I think people have been unfair to Brock Purdy. And I think while I think Kyle Shanahan's done a great job, what really frosts me a little bit is Super Bowl 58. And he whiffed that game. He whiffed it. And that wasn't on Brock Purdy. You can say Steve Wilkes did a little bit, but Shanahan did that. And Shanahan's had several of those. And Shanahan was lucky in the playoffs last year that he was playing against a young Jordan Love, and he was lucky he was playing against the Lions and Jared Goff for them being there the first time. If the Rams had played Frisco last year in the playoffs the way Frisco played in the divisional and conference finals, the Rams would have beat them. There's something about him that's not clicking in the fourth quarter of big games and stuff. So, yeah. Let's see. USA Expat. How would you like to be playing in the secondary and see Kevin Dotson bearing down on you? Okay. Did you see that play? I got to tell you, that's the one I think they were showing a lot of highlights of where he got two blasts. He blasted the first guy, then he blasted the second guy on that slip screen. I'm going to call it a slip screen to Nakua. But I got to tell you, I'm sitting in the RamCave with Mid-Valley sports guy Dwayne Barker, and I'm thinking, oh, man, they're going to nail us for a lineman downfield, right? That's all I could think of on that play. Like sitting there, I'm really happy, but I'm ready to just ready for the Rams to go back 5 yards. And they didn't call it on that play. And I guess because of where Nakua caught it. Did he catch it behind the line of scrimmage or right at the line of scrimmage or something like that? And got away with that. But Dotson has been exactly who he was last year. I think it took him half the season. Maybe he needed to get healthy, but he's where he was last year. And you got to feel really confident about that. That's really good. Micah Gutierrez, how do you feel about Miami releasing OBJ? Do you think the Rams could pick him up as a depth piece? Were you not here just a second ago? I did bring that up. I have no problem giving him a practice squad contract, making no promises to him, but you never know what can happen the next 3 weeks, right? He could be our Eric Weddle, right? And let's just keep him around. Whatever issues he had in Cleveland and New York, they were not an issue with the Rams. And I think we're seeing a diminished player that was in Baltimore and Miami, but bring him in, for a short spurt for insurance purposes. Yeah, let's find out, right? I would do it. I really would. If he's in that mindset. You're not going to put him on the active roster. Not right now. I wouldn't do it. But I put him on the practice squad. Let's see. SCG, the Cabo St. Lucas crew window is closed. Is that a reference to when they picked up Stafford in Cabo? ESG? I'll take it. Okay, I get it. All right, let me run on here, guys. I do appreciate you being here because I did not announce I was going on early. I'm going to dinner with my wife, so I had to come on early. All right, there you go. Coaches on the hot seat: Robert Saleh, Dennis Allen, Matt Eberflus were all fired. I do have Brian Daboll and Doug Peterson up there, Gerard Mayo, Mike McCarthy. I think all four of those guys, either by resignation or a mutual decision or an actual axing, could be gone. Nick Sirianni is going to be really, really interesting to see if everything is cool in that Philly clubhouse. If they lose to Pittsburgh, which I was for Pittsburgh on Wednesday, and I have a guy here, Steeler fan Rob, kind of want to hear his opinion, if you'll give me an honest one. My issue was if they had George Pickens, but they're not going to have George Pickens. But then you got all this stuff going on with Philly, and I think it's going to be a big game for Philly. I think it's going to be a bigger game than people think, not about necessarily wins and losses, where it puts them in the whole scheme of things for the NFC playoff picture. Of course, that is involved. It's, can they keep their house in order? Because they had a really bad ending last year. Just something to think about going forward. Okay, everything. We're not going to break down the NFC playoff picture other than the Rams are 8-6. And that victory by the Rams really put enormous pressure not only on the Seahawks this week against the Packers. And if the Seahawks win, all the Rams have to do is stay within a game of the Seahawks, right? If they stay within a game of the Seahawks, and Seahawks are, 11-5, and the Rams are 10-6 in Week 18. That's okay, because a Rams win gives them the division title, because we'll have swept the Seahawks. So the Seahawks do have enormous pressure on them right now. Also, this win puts pressure on the Taxkins. The Taxkins are 8-5. They get New Orleans. It's won 3 out of 4. And we really want to see that as Ram fans, because if the Taxkins tank, if they tank, and for some reason the Rams finish 10-7 and don't overcome the Seahawks and lose just one more game, but they finish 10-7, if the Taxkins can tank, then the Rams can take that last wild card spot. Washington gets NOLA this week, who's won 3 out of their last 4, and then they get Philly. And that could be huge stuff there for the Rams. That win also put pressure on the Falcons, who have the Raiders this week, and the Cardinals, who have the Patriots. And we know the Cardinals, right? Kyler Murray's body language. They don't do well with pressure right now. So, okay, let's keep moving along here. Next week, college football starts, the playoff. I really haven't kept track of the bowl games. I'm kind of focused on the playoff. I even called it the BCS the other day. One thing of news that came out of the Ram game was Nick Hampton tore a pec muscle and is going to need surgery and likely lost for the season. Well, pec injury, yeah, you are gone for the season. He wasn't getting a lot of snaps on defense this year, but he has shined on special teams. I'm wondering if that next slot kind of opens up for Brennan Jackson, who has not played as much as we thought he would. But then again, Byron Young and Jared Verse have been even better than I think everyone envisioned they would be. And so we'll go from there. Let's see. Questions. ESG. No, it's where Kyle Shanahan and his players go to vacation. Oh, my bad. There you go. The way that clubhouse is, maybe they don't want to go together, right? Maybe they don't want to go together. Kyle Shanahan, I don't know. I'd be curious to know your thoughts. I think he's a really good coach. He's not in McVay's class, though, because a football coach has to be more than just XOs, right? And McVay's players play, right? They play. And, of course, that's a tribute to whatever the Rams' philosophy is on how they slot and take players, right? The character issue. ESG, the NFC West winner will be the 3rd seed. You think so? Do you think Washington's going to collapse? I hope so. The winner will be the 3rd seed. Yes, that's true. I was thinking of the 7th spot or the final wild card spot. But yeah, you're right. Tim Powers, Rams defense held 49ers running game in check most of the night. They met runners at the line of scrimmage, with the exception of Jusic opening up in the second half with the lead block. Yeah. Hey, what did you think of Christian Roseboom? What did you think of Christian Roseboom, Mr. Powers? I thought Roseboom played the best game of his career, and we see him with these performances now over this last month or so have become much more consistent. You know, before they looked like outliers for a guy who's basically a career special teamer, but we're seeing him get better and better. And obviously, you know, different role, seeing different things. Troy Reader's not out there. He has to take the lead a little bit with Spates. And we just see a guy getting better at his craft. That's what I think. And he runs. He moves much quicker as well. And he's a great compliment to Spates. I really think that's pretty exciting when you see what's going on there with those two. And again, I don't view that Loftball linebacker spot as a liability anymore. I just don't. Is it great? Nah, it's not top of the line, right? It's not like you got Fred Warner and Roquan Smith all there running around. But I don't view it as an absolute liability anymore. And again, I give credit to Chris Shula. I give all the credit to Chris Shula. He should be defensive coordinator of the year. Okay, let's run through this list real quick here of the games this Sunday. It's so much more fun to watch after the Rams win on Thursday, right? So much more fun. Cowboys at Panthers. I'm going to take the Panthers in the Steve Berline Bowl. Chiefs at the Browns in the Frank Pitts Bowl. I think the Chiefs are going to get stung here. I just do. I think they are. They're due. They just won their division. They got a little buffer with the Bills and the Steelers right now. And I think they're cruising for a bruising. I think, obviously, they have done something right that has pleased the Lord. And everything's going right for them. And I think they might be puffed up with pride. They're going to come back down. I think the Browns can sting them. So I'm taking the Browns in the Frank Pitts Bowl. Dolphins, Texans in the Sage Rosenfels Bowl. I'm taking the Dolphins in this one. I think they got all the momentum. Jets and Jaguars, the Jeff Lageman Bowl. What would they say? Allegedly an NFL game. I'm really hoping the Jaguars kill them. I'm taking the Jaguars. I want the Jets deflated, defeated, and checking out when the Rams come to town in 10 days. let's see here. The Billy Kilmer Bowl, the Taxkins against the Saints. We're rooting for the Saints in this one. I've picked the Taxkins to win it, but we're rooting for the Saints. Ravens at the Giants in the Chris Canty Bowl. Ravens are going to win that one. Bengals at the Titans in the Pac-Man Jones Bowl. I'm going with the Bengals in this one. Patriots at the Cardinals in the Chandler Jones Bowl. Rooting for the Patriots. Rooting for the Patriots. Want the Cardinals broke and demoralized by the time they come to SoFi in week 17. So rooting for the Patriots, but I think the Cardinals are going to win this one. Colts at the Broncos in the John Elway Bowl. Think about it. And taking the Broncos in this one. Bills at the Lions in the Chris Spielman Bowl. I think the Lions are due to get beaten, but I think they're going to get beaten by a much lesser team. I'm going to take the Lions over the Bills at Ford Field, so in the Chris Spielman Bowl. Buccaneers at the Chargers. Mid-Valley Sports guys are covering that one. The Vincent Jackson Bowl. Never take the Chargers. That's what I mean. When game's on the line, you never get involved with death, with the Sicilian. When death is on the line, you never get involved with anything important with the Chargers when something important is on the line. So I'm taking the Buccaneers in this one. And then the Steelers at the Eagles in the LeGarrette Blount Bowl. I picked the Steelers on Wednesday. I did. But without George Pickens, sorry, Steeler fan Rob, I'm going with the Eagles this week. Packers at the Seahawks. I'm going to take the Seahawks in this one. I'm rooting for the Packers, but I think the Seahawks get the win against the Packers and then lose to the Vikes next week. Monday night games playing concurrently. Only Disney, only ESPN, only ABC and the NFL can screw this up where they have two games going concurrently instead of running one game at 4 and another game at 7. But yeah, it's amazing. You got the Bears at the Vikings and the Bob Grimm Bowl. We're taking the Vikings. Falcons at the Raiders in the Jeff George Bowl. And we're going with the Falcons in that one. Okay, let's see what we got here. Let's see. Micah Gutierrez, if the Rams win the division, that would mean we would likely have a rematch versus Green Bay at SoFi. That would be kind of cool. I don't want to speak prophetically, but my book, Game Day in the RamCave, is about the Green Bay Packers coming to SoFi for a playoff game. Actually, it's the NFC Championship game. So, if you want to get a heads up on how that might come out, in a little, Twilight Zone fashion, check out my book, Game Day in the RamCave. ESG, if the Bills are able to beat the Lions, that will make the Rams win against the Bills even bigger. Yeah, it will. And again, remember what the Rams lost to the Lions by? They lost by 7 points. It was a 7-point game. If Kobe Durant, remember the pick that Kobe Durant dropped? It would have been a whole different game, whole different outcome there if he had held on to that pick there late in the fourth. So yeah, when the Rams are healthy, the Rams played with Detroit, and now they're playing against Detroit, or would be playing against Detroit, with an experienced Braden Fisk, with an experienced Jared Verse, with a more experienced Byron Murphy. Kobe, this defense has developed. It's found itself, right? I'm kind of excited. And maybe, just maybe, you got Kobe Durant coming back, who had been playing well this last month. And then maybe, just maybe, Emmanuel Forbes turns into a piece that we can use as we close out the season. It's kind of exciting. Rick Mayer, there's not a better feeling than sweeping the 40-winers and knocking them out of the playoffs, except for maybe shutting out the Cowboys 54-0. Yes, and planting a flag right there in the middle of Jerry World, right? Let's just double down on it. Take a flag and stick it in there, rub it in. I'm with you, Rick Mayer. Thanks for clicking on. USA Expat, enjoy the dinner tonight. I intend to. I think we're going to a place in Eagle Rock called Dunsmore. It's foodie heaven, and it should be pretty good. LA Rams are going to be NFC West champions. You know what? I don't think that's that far of a prediction. It's there. Like we talked about on Friday or Wednesday show, it's all there. It's all in front of them, right? It's like Kenny Loggins singing, "This is it. For once in your life, here's your miracle. Stand up and fight." It's right there. It's right there. Just go take it. It's like Ty Webb telling Danny Noonan, "Danny, see your future, be your future. Make your future happen," right? It's all there. It's all there. Okay, let's check this thing
It
out.
was a stone groove, my man.
It was a stone groove. All right. Today, December 13th, 3 years ago today, Rams activate cornerback Kareem Moore from the practice squad. Jalen Ramsey was put on COVID protocol on the way or before getting on the plane flying to Phoenix. Andrew Whitworth was out. This is where we got introduced to Alaric Jackson. Rams were 8-4. Cardinals were 10-2. And Orr, an undrafted free agent out of Chattanooga who had bounced around the league, was called up from the practice squad at the last minute. He plays 40 snaps. He's in on 4 tackles. But more importantly, he doesn't get torched. They're still running, I think, in 2021. Are they running Hollywood Brown out there? They are running A.J. Green out there. And Rams end up winning 30-23 and really begin their run to the Super Bowl. The following week, Orr played on special teams, and then he was gone. The last of his NFL action. But Kareem Orr stepped into the breach, right? He filled the hole in the line in the year the Rams went on to win the Super Bowl. So I will always remember Kareem Orr Day. That's what I'm going to call this day. December 13th is Kareem Orr Day. And so, yeah, I do like to make mention of that great day. Okay, December 14th, nothing much going on. December 15th, that's Sunday. That's the anniversary in 2009 where the Rams waived Richie Incognito because he couldn't hold his stuff together with the Rams. But he ends up playing another 10 years in the league, makes 4 Pro Bowls. He kind of tightens things up a little bit. He's still pretty volatile character, but with the Rams, he was always costing us something. Rams put him in the street. Bills claimed him, and he bounced around with the Bills, and Dolphins and Raiders. Made 4 more Pro Bowls, had a great career, but Sunday is the 15th year anniversary when the Rams waived him. Also on Sunday, we talked about this a little bit, is the anniversary of the time I saw O.J. Simpson play, Rams-Bills 1914 at the end of the 74 season. And 1980, December 15th, 1980, anyone remember Jarrell Thomas, Monday Night Football? He went absolutely off against the Cowboys in a big blowout. 38-14 win over the Cowboys in Monday Night Football. Wendell Tyler had been out. Elvis Peacock was out, and the Rams needed somebody, and they put the San Jose State draft pick into the lineup, and he just went off. And there was that moment, there was that month where he was kind of like our Timmy Smith without the drama. He was great against the Cowboys, and he finished the 80 campaign. And of course, Tyler was back in 81. Tyler was there in 82. And then we ended up shipping him off to Kansas City because we drafted Eric Dickerson in 83 and stuff. But if you remember, Jarrell Thomas, San Jose State, went off against the Cowboys December 15th, 1980. It was a great night. It was a happy night in my household. All right. I think we got everything in. We've hit the 48-minute mark. You guys are great. You guys, I cannot believe you're with me at this time of day. But please, if you have anything, throw some questions out there. Let's look at that. Micah Gutierrez, also with the 49ers, hopes all but vanished. They will go into next season with a 30-year championship drought, right? And paying a lot of money to a lot of guys that are going over 30 years old, right? And now they got doubts about Brock Purdy. And I think for the system they have, Brock Purdy is fine. I think they need more character people around him. They need better people around him. They're just investing bad money in different places. Maybe they need to take a step back and maybe, they'll keep Purdy for next year. They don't have to sign him, but maybe they need to step back. They need to go the route where the Rams went at the start of the 23 season. Remember, the Rams putting everybody in the street, off of everybody, trading Jalen Ramsey, cutting Leonard Floyd, letting all those free agents walk, let everyone go. But then the draft class made the season something more, right? I think when we were going into the 2023 campaign, I looked at all-time defensive snaps, and Aaron Donald and Ernest Jones had something like, 4,000 NFL snaps between them. And the rest of the team combined didn't even have like 800 at that point. And of course, the Rams went on the run last year. The team got better, and we saw what happened last year. But that was supposed to be the season of pain for the Rams in 2023. 49ers are going to have to do something like that. They do. But of course, that contract they just gave Ayuk is new. They just extended Trent Williams again. So To suffer is to suffer, and I love to see them suffer from so much suffering. There we go. ESG, this is it. Kenny Loggins with Michael McDonald as backup. Oh, was it Michael McDonald? It was Kenny Loggins, right? Did I get that right? I hope I got that right. Thanks, ESG. Rick Meyer, do you think Barkley is going to pass Dickerson's rushing record? I don't know. I would hope. Well, no, I don't hope. But I hope in the sense that if Philly is wise, at a certain point, they might want to just make sure they give that guy a day off. They just might want to give him a day off because he's carrying the whole load. He's carrying the whole load there in Philly, right? And so you might want to give him a day off, but of course, you might want to get the record. One of the things I appreciated about it was Eric Dickerson. Last I heard, Eric Dickerson says, "No, I don't want him to break my record." Numbers in football don't mean anything. 2,105, I do remember that one. But as I got older, I used to remember, Charlie Taylor caught 633 passes. That pass broke Don Maynard's record, and then I think he finished with 649 or something at the end of his career, Charlie Taylor. And then Charlie Joyner broke it. But I lost track of who gets this. To me, it's the marker. Did you get to 10,000 yards rushing? I don't really have those numbers locked in my head the way we do, of course, with baseball. But I like to hear Eric Dickerson, no, I don't want him to break it. But yeah, he definitely has the ability, and I'll tell you why, because that offensive line is great, and he could do it. Let me look at their schedule real quick here, and who they've got. The Eagles have the Steelers. That's going to be tough. Texans have been struggling. Cowboys couldn't stop a runny nose, and the Giants are not playing really well. So he wants to get fat. He's going to get fat off those teams. But the question is, if he gets hurt, boy, that there's going to be a lot of stuff to answer for if he gets hurt, right? Let's see here. Tim Burns, I see the Commanders. Who are the Commanders? Oh, do you mean the Taxskins? The Washington Taxskins. I see the Taxskins losing and us catching them. We could get the wild card with the same record. You know what? I don't know. I do not know what the tiebreaker would be on that. I do not know. So I don't know, but we have a shot at that 7th spot in worst case scenario. We've gotten to that position. Tim Burns, 5th game without a sack. Nice. Hey, they're playing well. And if PFF doesn't recognize it, your eyes are seeing it. Hey, the thing that was off last night was Stafford. And I love Stafford, but he was off last night. And probably the weather had a lot to do with it. Tim Burns having 3 field goals under 30 yards says our offense has stagnated, but I'll take it versus the 49ers. Sweet. As I said, those 49ers, they're real down boys. They want a piece of this world too. And, those corners did a great job. Lenore and Charvarius Ward, right? Charvarius Ward wasn't real happy with Campbell after the game. Fred Warner's Fred Warner. I wouldn't pay as much as they do for Fred Warner, but he's a beast. And they're a good team. Hafanga is a good player. That's a good defense. A rivalry game, bad weather, familiarity between these franchises, similar systems. I'm good with it. I'm not worried about the stagnation there at all. But they got the sweep right, Mr. Burns. That's the good news. Rick Meyer, where does Lawrence McCutcheon rank in your top running backs in Ram history? Okay, given the fact that I only saw highlights of Willie Ellison. I didn't see Scooter Bass play. In the heart, because McCutcheon was my first, McCutcheon is always going to be right up there, right? Same thing with Wendell Tyler, because he was the first time I saw the Rams with a home run hitter. McCutcheon was, I'm not saying they're the same guy, but McCutcheon broke off runs kind of like, not in the style, but the length of runs that Kyron Williams is getting. Never takes it to the house, but he's just always gashing, right? And going forward for yards. But Wendell Tyler was the guy that could put 63 yards and burn on you, so I loved him. When I think of great Ram running backs, and you just look at them logically, I know this one's going to be kind of questionable for some people, but in terms of completeness, Marshall Faulk, Eric Dickerson, and Marshall Faulk, Eric Dickerson, and Steven Jackson. That's where I would go in terms of talent and who these guys were. I wish Dickerson could have played with a Mike Martz, right? And could you imagine Dickerson motioning out into a slot and the fear that would just put into a defense back in those days. We didn't have that kind of creativity. We didn't have the quarterback to get him the ball, but for most of that time. But yeah, it's Marshall Faulk because of everything he does. Then Dickerson, Steven Jackson. I generally would lean Wendell Tyler, McCutcheon, and then Todd Gurley. I didn't build that bond with Todd Gurley, right, that I built with those other guys. But yeah, that's where I would put that. That's where I would put that. All right. I'm glad someone remembers Lawrence McCutcheon, though. Tim Burns, Jameis Juju for 3 weeks now. There you go, Tim Burns. All right. ESG, is there a chance the Rams can clinch the division before the last week? I think the Seahawks would just have to take one. We'd have to win out, so we'd have to finish 11-6 flat out, right? That would have to be the case. But I'm looking at this right now. Give me a second here, brother, to look at this. The Seahawks would have to lose to the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears, and be 8-8 when the Rams play them, and then they would be 8-8. The Rams would be 10-6. So that's a possibility. But are the Bears going to beat the Seahawks? I don't think so. Cardinals. The Cardinals are 6-7 right now, but they got that win over the 49ers. They play the Patriots and Panthers, so they could be 8-7. Then they got to lose to the Rams, 8-8, and then they would play the 49ers. So yeah, there is a scenario there. If everybody loses and we get to week 18 and the Rams are 10-6 and everyone else is 8-8, there is a scenario there where we would have it before the game is played. So Tim Burns, Roseman leads the Rams in tackles. Got to prop him up. Oh, yeah. Earlier in the show, we talked a lot about him. He's 27. He's going to be 28. And he's playing the best football of his career. And he's not just doing it in spurts. This is a consistent, five-game stretch where he just keeps getting better. And he was just plugging things up last night. Just plugging things up. Let's see. Tim Burns, Kyron's spin move was jaw drop. Yeah, it's almost like no one gets a square hit on him. He just gets that little spin. They kind of hit him in that shoulder, and he spins off, right, every time. And so even when they tackle him and they wrap him up, he's still spinning forward, right? He's he's strong, but he's not super heavy. Okay, let's see. I think we got everything else in there. All right. I am over 50 minutes. I'll wait for 30 seconds, guys. If you got another one, throw them in here. I love rapping with you. Micah Gutierrez, if the Rams are 10-6 and Seattle is 9-7 at the end of week 17, the Rams will have won the division. Yeah, but I think because if they beat the Rams, then it's a split, right? Then it's a split, and they're both 10-7, and then there's other tie-breaking factors that come in. Yeah, I gotta look at that if that's a scenario. That is always a scenario. Bill, come on, Donald. Rams are going to the playoffs. Jump on board. Absolutely, right? Come and get some, right? The team should make a video right now, right? All the defensive room guys, right? They should just say, come on back, man. Just send them a video and say, come on back. I wonder what the league would do. I wonder what everyone would say. Someone would cry foul. It's not fair. It's this, it's that, right? It's this, it's that. Someone would complain. Absolutely. All right, guys, we have been on for close to an hour. I do appreciate you guys joining me, especially when I didn't announce I was coming on early. But if you like the show, subscribe to the show. We appreciate that. Check us out on Spotify at From the RamCave, and be sure to check out my books on Amazon. Tangent Dreams, check it out. Good high school football novel. God bless. Take care. Rams won. See you soon.